recording? Okay, cool.
That Jits Life. All right, start this thing off. Terry Bullman, Joe Watson, welcome. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All the way in from Costa Rica.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
So you got in last night?
Got in last night. Son picked me up from the airport about midnight. And
Nice.
That's
it's
awesome.
good. Easy travel day.
It's a stupid question, but time difference? I don't even know where Costa Rica is.
We're 2 hours behind right now.
Okay.
But when the time changes, only an hour because Costa Rica doesn't do daylight savings.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes I'm an hour behind. Sometimes I'm 2 hours.
Interesting. There's a
Yeah.
couple spots in the U.S. that are like that. There's a little pocket in Arizona somewhere, and I think Indiana. It's like that.
Oh,
Certain
really?
times of the year.
Changes.
Yeah. When we drove out to San Diego from Tampa, we were just driving through all these time zones. It was weird, just watching the clock just change live, just real time. Yeah, it was bizarre. But
Yeah.
anyway, glad you're here, man. Thanks for being here.
Man, appreciate it.
We've got an awesome workshop coming up on Sunday. It's at the 18th, 5 to
Yep.
7.
5 to 7.
Terry's going to be doing some holotropic breath work. Heather Hutchison's going to be doing yoga. And as a team, you guys are going to be coming up here and doing some cold plunge and sauna.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be fun.
So let me ask you guys this. What have you noticed the biggest benefits of breath work in general? Because I've had a few benefits myself. I haven't got super deep into it, but I compete a lot, and I've noticed it's kind of like helped me get more comfortable in like my anxieties and my views of what other people are thinking about me as I'm competing. How have you guys kind of experienced breath work?
You probably have a totally different experience because you're getting into holotropic stuff. I'm
So
doing
I originally started doing breath work, like Wim Hof breath work, actually when I was competing for Worlds because as you know, I've never had much of a bottom game, so my whole deal was I got to stay on top. And the big reason for that is being on bottom, even as long as I've been doing jiu-jitsu, which has been, like 25 years now. Even now, a good black belt, good brown belt with heavy pressure gets on top. I try hard to get them off me, and then there's that moment where I can't, and I kind of go into a panic. To me, that's like drowning on dry land, and I'm not a good swimmer. So so I remember doing Wim Hof before Worlds and really getting in and realizing, dude, you can hold your breath for like 3 minutes. So just somebody, you're not gonna die.
Yeah.
And it really helped. And then I got exposed, since we moved to Costa Rica, we have a lot of, different facilitators come through and do retreats. And this lady came through and was doing a holotropic, breath work. And she invited me, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, it was all girls, and I was like, I don't know it, and she's like, oh, it's a really prolific experience for some people. You can actually go on a journey, and I'd done a couple of plant medicine ceremonies at that time, and I was like, well, if there's no medicine, I'm definitely not going on a journey. But I was like, I'll try it, and we get into this breath work, and within like 5 to 10 minutes, I'm like hovering. I'm basically in a V-sit, and I have tetany, which is one of the things that can happen when you're doing this holotropic breath work. I have tetany in my hands, so my hands are like literally.
That's what that's called.
Tetany. Yeah.
That has come up so many times when we're doing Wim Hof stuff here, or superventilation,
Yeah.
and that's come up as like, I heard someone call it yoga hands.
Yeah, but you get tetany.
My face gets like that
you
a
get
little
tetany
bit.
in your
I'm like,
hands or your
yeah.
face, and I'm in
What
this
the heck?
position for like 45 minutes.
It's tough.
But I think I'm levitating. Like I'm in a full-on prolific, journey. I was so sore the next day, man. Oh my God. But for me, I was like, oh my God. And then I was exposed to it again. And it was actually a medicine retreat, but they brought in this facilitator who now is the facilitator for my men's groups, Jeremy Jackson. And he did holotropic. And Jeremy is, high level purple belt jiu-jitsu, yoked guy, big,
Is he a half black dude?
He's jacked. He's not half black. But,
Okay.
I mean, he's got curly hair, big
Yeah.
beard. He was actually.
I feel like I remember that guy.
He was actually Hobie on Baywatch.
That's why the
No
name sounded
kidding.
familiar.
Yeah.
Heather was talking about
Yeah.
that.
So super cool guy, one of my best friends now, and So, I was like, okay, but it was different energetically because he's a dude, and the way he leads, and it's all men. And I just, same thing. Like I said, I've had some big, since I've moved to Costa Rica, I was exposed to plant medicine. I've had some really big, plant medicine experiences. And when I do this breath work, I started realizing I was having similar experiences, which is awesome because, my goal now is to be able to get these experiences without the plant medicine. Not that, have a problem with plant medicine, but if you can, something that you could tap into at any time that you always have with you, is super powerful. And, a lot of the guys who are coming on these retreats, they're on SSRIs, antidepressants, maybe they have heart conditions. They can't do the plant medicine, but they can do the breath work. And holotropic breath work was basically invented by Stanislav Graf, who was doing LSD, experimenting with these LSD trials. But there were certain people who couldn't
do LSD.
And they came up with this breath work, and that whole, his whole system is more than just the breath. It's the music, it's the body work that they do. They do these like mandala drawings. But yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated by breath work. I've really started studying, and I mean, there's so much I don't know that I'm still learning.
And what do you feel like, I keep getting too close to this thing. What do you feel like after you go through an experience like that, what are the takeaways you have like into your regular life? Or like, are you calmer? Are you more focused? Are you more energetic? What are like the...
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't typically get a lot of visuals. It's more like an MDMA plant medicine experience where you're
just feel good.
It's an internal dialogue. When we do some of these experiences, it's not like you're doing Molly and going to the club. Like I don't have any experience with like recreational drugs. Before I moved to Costa Rica, I'd never smoked a cigarette, never done anything. And I had a psilocybin experience that was unbelievable.
Eye-opening.
Yeah, and I mean, you're laying on a mat with your eyes covered with a blindfold and listen to music for 5 or 6 hours. It's not insane. A party. I mean, people associate these drugs with partying, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I really don't think that was their original intended use. But with the breath, I was having these similar experiences, and for me, it's more of that internal dialogue. Like you already have these answers inside you. Super heart opening. A lot of guys that have come on the retreats have experienced help with anxiety, depression, confidence, everything from addiction. I've had guys who literally stop vaping, stop drinking, and it's not like I'm doing it, right? It's just you're setting a container, and these guys are coming and experiencing this, and I think a lot of us are smarter than we think. We just never sit still long enough to listen.
Yeah.
Right? We have the answers.
It's a good clip right there.
I love it.
We have the answers. We just never really, the world is so fast and so loud, and we're getting stuff thrown at us 24/7 that we never stop and listen.
That's crazy. That's wild how wild breathing is. Because that's one small aspect of what you can do with breathing. I mean, obviously in that realm, but like for competition and stuff like that, like learning how to breathe properly, learning how to breathe slow, how to calm down your heart rate in between rounds.
Yeah, and there's so many different types of breathing. I mean, box breathing is great for that. For that particular thing. Wim Hof is amazing. And as I get into, I mean, there's so many different, I mean, for our holotropic, we do all mouth. So it's a 2 breath in, and then
so it's like fire breathing.
Exhale. Yeah, it's all mouth. The way I was taught, it was almost like make pursed lips, and it's just and it's belly, chest.
I was picturing, for some reason, I forget who calls it fire breathing. I think it's XPT.
That's more of the fast. Which again, you can have. All holotropic breath work is upregulated breathing. There's a million different ways. Some people do in the nose, out the mouth. Some people do only inhale, exhale.
But it's just a faster pace than what you normally. Just a faster.
You're taking in more air and you're doing it at a faster pace. That's breath work.
That's wild, because that same cadence. Have you heard of the physiological side? Huberman talks about it. So I use that for people in the cold plunge, just probably a little bit slower, a little bit more extended. I helped a woman at Anakeesta who was having a panic attack, like a week after I got certified. Where you walk up and this lady's got a little baby strapped to her chest, and she's a full-blown panic attack, hyperventilating like crazy. Eyes are shut. Her and none of her family speak English, and I'm like, this. I just got certified. I was like, I'll be right back. Ran over, and like within 10 seconds she was calm, and she was like, thank you. I was like, just for like saying that double inhale, obviously it's a more aggressive inhale, the physiological side, but same. It's amazing.
So inner dialogue, staying calm.
Yeah, just lowering your heart rate, kind of calming your mind, kind of goes towards more like when you think about meditation and you're trying to empty your mind and live in the moment, and your mind starts wandering, you bring it back to your breath. So when you're doing breath work, it's meditation. And
then you add in the other, in my mind, most important, biggest piece is the music, right? So
I've never messed with that before.
Yeah, so think about like being at a movie, right? And the climatic scene of, and they've got the soundtrack, and it's just like you got goosebumps and your heart rate's raised, and it's this anticipation. Like the music really can, make you.
That's true.
Changes your heart rate.
It changes your heart rate. So the music is such a big piece, and most of the music is, we're not listening to gangster rap. I love gangster rap, but it's uplifting music, and even the tones. I mean, music. I could go down a rabbit hole with music and the frequencies, and have you seen where they put the sand
on speakers?
And then it
makes
like the shape, right? Almost like a snowflake, and all the frequencies create a different vibration.
I mean, some songs will make you so nostalgic. You're like, man, I'm back in high school again. Right. Like I feel it.
Yeah, I've done that with jiu-jitsu, where I'm done with class and I'm literally on the way up the stairs to a song of cold plunge, and whoever's controlling the music, some song comes on. I'm like, guess I'm going back downstairs. I'll go do another roll to that song.
I mean, it's really powerful.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I personally think it can be used for good or the other way. But having the music, and typically it's curated in such a way that you're going to hit these highs in the middle, maybe of a 7-minute or 9-minute round, where you get this peak.
That's wild.
And it's building, and the music's building, and I'm having a lot of fun, like playing with that aspect of it.
Nice.
And you'll see, as I'm watching people, you'll see, especially men, we hold a lot of trauma, especially in our pelvic region, and you'll see guys start like moving their leg or moving their hip or twisting a certain. I mean, you can see people resist. You can see people, release. A lot of women, especially, will have like an emotional release, and then feel amazing because your body, we're containers. We hold all this shit.
Yeah, I've heard lots of good stuff about it. I'm looking forward to trying it. I've never tried it. I'm really looking forward to it. That's awesome. So that's, like I said, that's one area. Have you noticed in training, breathe, learning how to breathe properly and doing this type of breath work?
For me, most of it is just it's helped me calm down, right? If I get stuck or I'm underneath somebody, or even on top, like get to a point like, okay, we've established it's a way of calming your nervous system, calming back down, getting control of your breath without necessarily going flat back, right? Because flat back is death. Right? So being able to be maybe even in a bad position and get a reset with the breath.
Yeah. I use it in a similar aspect. So when I same thing, I started with Wim Hof. I saw him on Joe Rogan. I was like, that looks cool. Let me try that. And I started wearing a mouth guard so I could clench my teeth to force myself to breathe through my nose, because I was back, white belt days where I was just a spastic white belt. And I was like, I know what I'm doing. I can't control it. So I forced myself to breathe only through my nose. So I started moving slower. And then when I started learning more about breath work and got certified, so now I teach some of the guys this. I try to use it myself. Sometimes I just forget about it. But when you get into a spot where you can camp out and you've just got done with like a brawl basically, or a scramble, and your heart rate, you and your partner's heart rate are, let's say 150, 160, something like that. And then all of a sudden you land a knee on belly. And they're squirming out from underneath because that knee is uncomfortable. It's right in their diaphragm, right in their solar plex, wherever. As a person on top, learning how to do that type of holotropic breathing or physiological sigh where you're lowering your heart rate, you're calming down, and then when you're ready to explode, your heart rate's at 70, and they're just still at 160, and then you can kind of do that through the match and outpace someone. And not that I'm like down the rabbit hole that deep where I'm doing that every day in rolls, but I notice that sometimes. Even if I get my ass whooped, some dude strangles me, I tap out, I'm breathing just like I am now, and I hear him more than halfway through it. Breathing is just so different. So it's a skill level.
And I think I was taught breath work early on in my boxing career. I didn't realize that's what it was. The difference is in jiu-jitsu, there's not rounds, right? Because you had a minute in MMA and boxing and kickboxing. I would typically have a minute to rest.
Changes everything.
My coach would be like, slow your breathing down. You basically have that minute. How efficient can you get at getting it back together?
What's interesting is this weekend, that $1 million tournament, they have a three round thing where they have a 1 minute rest, and they've never had a jiu-jitsu competition like that. So I think it's going to play a factor.
I think that's a huge factor.
I need to fly down there. I need to fly down there and show them how to do it.
It's going to be good.
So that plays into the balanced man and the retreats down in Costa Rica. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I had never even really thought about men's work that much. After moving to Costa Rica, we have the retreat center at Kismet, and 95% of it is females doing yoga, which is great. And then I was just like, man, there's not a lot out there for men. We live in Nosada, so it's like it's very cliche, common shaman, kind of town, very hippy dippy, woo. And I wanted to create something that originally my plan was I want to get away from all that and teach guys like real men shit. And so it started as having guys come, and we do boxing, jiu-jitsu, Krav Maga, we do instinctive archery, we're going as waterfall, and we still do all those things. But I ended up partnering with one of my good friends who brought some of that element. The breath work was the first element, and then we started having these men's circles and talking, and even doing things like eye gazing, which I know sounds super gay, but
super sus.
It's good confidence, though. Learning how to have eye contact
to
with
be
someone.
able to have eye contact with somebody. We're closer than we are now, and we're looking at each other, and the trigger for most guys, they want to make a joke or laugh or
break
make a face or break the ice, right? But to really, in that moment, like look at each other, you see so much of yourself in that other person, and regardless. And I was like, man, I'm seeing like these guys who have all kinds of different traumas. And not everybody has trauma, right? Not everybody, some dudes are just they just want to train and be at the beach. But most of the guys leave with something. I wanted to teach them skills that they could take back home with them. And the breath work, like I said, we have with us. Most of the guys go back and they're like, because a lot of these guys that are coming, they're not fighters. some of them had never been punched in the face, never tried to hit anybody, never been in a situation where they're, somebody's trying to choke them or,
right.
and it's all, lower level stuff. I mean, nobody's going to leave after the week and be a cage fighter, but just exposing men, there's a lot of trust involved in these classes. So, a lot of them are leaving and joining jiu-jitsu gyms,
Nice.
or going into a boxing gym. They finally have the confidence. Because a lot of men, we lie to ourselves, right? There's a lot of men who've never been in a fight, they don't train, they don't do anything, but they all magically think they're going to turn into Jason Bourne when something happens.
It's in our DNA.
It's in our DNA.
When I see red, man.
Yeah, when I see red.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
one shot.
Yeah. So it's a good test for these guys, and they can be vulnerable in a safe place. You know what I mean? Like, okay, he was on top of me and I couldn't do shit about it. Like,
yeah, and that's okay. It's
okay
to learn from that.
Because you become brothers in that week. We're super bonded. We're doing all this stuff together. And that's what we try to do. We try to front load the first part of the week with the physical to kind of break these guys down.
Get out of the way.
We're boxing and doing breath work on the first day. Second day is jiu-jitsu. Third day we do a hike. My buddy has like 140 acres down to a waterfall in Costa Rica. It is sick, but it is a beast of a hike because it's about an hour down and then an hour and a half out, and it's straight down and straight up. So a lot of these guys by that third day are starting to break, right? They're starting to like, oh man, that's a tester.
Yeah.
And then by that fourth day, we're doing the plant medicine and they're wide open, or the breath, because not everybody does the plant medicine. So we have some that are doing the breath and some that are doing the medicine, and just it's connecting guys. There's so many men, especially in America right now, that are just lost, right? They're working, they're married, they've got kids, they're doing all the things that they're supposed to be doing.
Stuck in a routine that's not
and
really.
They're stuck.
Not happy with work.
They're checking the lid. They're not happy at work. They're not happy in their relationship. They don't feel good enough. They don't feel strong enough. They don't think they're making enough money. They don't think they're fit enough. They don't think they can defend their family if something went down and be like, So, watching the news can be scary. So, again, there's nothing magic about what we're doing. We're just creating a space where these guys can slow down and be quiet long enough to listen to the knowledge that they already have.
Nice.
Inside.
That's good.
That makes sense.
I like that.
Some breath work. Also doing yoga mixed in there.
Yeah, we do. My wife will typically do a couple of yoga sessions with them. We do surf a couple of days. We do some instinctive archery down at my friend's place. I got a couple of recurves, and he makes his own longbows. And there's a lot with traditional archery. Hunting, you probably need a compound, but with traditional archery, there's a lot of the breath and the mindset that goes in that.
I don't know anything about archery at all, but I've heard
aiming, that. Right? It's instinctive. You're aiming, not really aiming. You look at the target, you pull, and you draw. Where, a compound bow, typically you get a quick draw release. You're pulling, and the weight breaks down once you're at full, so you can hold it forever. If you pull a longbow or you pull a recurve, when you get to your cheek, which is typically the anchor point, you're wanting to release because the poundage is getting heavier as you pull. As opposed to a compound, you get to a certain point and it breaks down and the weight goes to almost nothing. So it's just teaching these guys to trust. You spot, you see, you pull, and you fire. So again, teaching them a skill that maybe they're going to use, maybe not, but it's all instilling confidence, getting back to your roots, just reconnecting guys with Mother Earth.
It's awesome. I love it. Excellent. Yeah, and most people come away with profound Like when they leave and they go home, like, man, get something out of it.
And that's why I call it. One of the reasons I call it the balanced man is it's not, because some people be like, "Oh, Terry moved to Costa Rica and, turned into a gypsy." Like it's
a great name.
Not a bad move.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's a mix of, again, because a lot of guys hear yoga and they hear breath work and they're like, psh.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm trying to mix these masculine trait, the boxing and the kickboxing and the Krav and the jiu-jitsu and the archery and the, we're on ATVs, driving fast through the mountains. Like, yeah, we're surfing and we're doing breath work. We're doing yoga.
Eye gazing.
Yeah, eye gazing.
I might have my 6 a.m. start eye gazing tomorrow just to start out.
Be turned to a stare down at full roll.
I will say it helps if you've kind of done the pre-work to just eye gaze right off the rip. I don't know if I could do it with you guys right now, but once that trust is built, because we're doing a lot of these circles where we're talking about real life shit, right? We're not. Guys are coming forth with, they're being real, because most of us on a day-to-day basis have this like
facade.
How you doing? Good. No matter what's going on.
On a safe space.
You created a character
and
for yourself.
Most of us don't even wait for the response. How you doing? And it's just life. It's just because we're all busy. We're all in it. We're all, it sounds like a question, but it's really not, right? Yeah. Most of us like, how you doing? Like, well, actually, you're like, fuck.
I didn't
actually mean that to sound like a question that I wanted you to answer. But so yeah, man, it's just I think it's really hard to create change in your current environment. You have to get out of your day-to-day environment and go. I'm not even saying it's got to be Costa Rica, but even a weekend retreat in the mountains, you get out of your comfort zone and where you feel safe.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that we give these guys is the morning practice. That's one thing that is like, we require you to do this morning practice. So we're getting up and on the floor at 5 a.m. And the morning practice really can be anything.
Yeah.
Can be going to jiu-jitsu, going to the gym, getting up doing breath work. But we have a set, like we get up and do a stretch routine. And I've been trying to get flexible for 35 years at least. But I would always think, I'm going to start doing yoga. And then maybe I go to a yoga class and then I don't go for a month. Or I, buy something off Instagram, hyperbolic stretching for beginners. And I'm like, I'm going to do this every day. And then I don't.
Yeah.
So I started doing a 15-minute stretch every morning. And I've been doing it for close to 90 days now. And I haven't missed a day. Nice. And now I look forward to it, and I'm getting more flexible. I'm still not a rubber guard guy, but I'm getting more flexible. So typically we'll do that morning stretch, we'll do a short breath work or meditation, and then we'll do either a journaling, which I really, again, another thing that sounds super hippy-dippy, but journaling and writing things down and getting them out of here and actually writing them down
makes a difference.
Makes a huge difference. And a lot of people will journal coming right off of a breathwork session because you're getting these
dialed in
downloads or whatever you want to call it. They're getting these downloads, and you gotta write it down because life's gonna start again. And all the stuff that we have to take care of from day to day and immediately, it's got to happen right now. All that stuff goes on the back burner.
Yeah.
But this morning practice is something that the guys can take back home and implement into their life. And a lot of them are having to get up 30 minutes earlier because it's short. It's not meant to be something that's hard. It's just meant to be something that can become part of a routine that is just yours.
Yeah.
Right,
it just worked too. You. That's kind of what I did when I.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. His story is very similar.
Yeah, kind of. Well, it's funny because going back, I joined jiu-jitsu because I wanted to get my son into it, and I envisioned myself like years down the line where he's at some soccer game or something and he's got to watch his dad get his ass kicked and I don't know, like nothing to do about it. I'm like, I should probably learn how to defend myself. So yeah, it was real awkward for me. I didn't wrestle in high school or anything like that. I did karate in high school, but fighting wasn't my thing. Grew up with sisters. I mean, I kicked their asses all the time, but whatever. but no, it was awkward to go in, number one, to a place with a bunch of dudes and gis and black belts and stuff, and then actually get on the ground and start doing jiu-jitsu. It was very awkward for me at first, but it became for a while. It was just not consistent with it. I wasn't getting any better. But when I first started getting consistent, I was like, oh, okay, so there's something to doing this every day, and then. I think even before I started working here, I think it must have been just before I started working here because we were talking about Sugar Shane O'Malley or something, and it's a 4-week thing. And I was saying how I really wanted to start this routine every morning because I was at jiu-jitsu every morning at 6. But at the old academy, I'd come in beforehand, do a little bit of a workout, stretch or whatever. And then, so I wasn't coming up here yet. I wasn't doing the sauna and cold plunge. I wasn't into breath work yet. I don't think. I was doing Wim Hof, but I wasn't certified. It wasn't part of my daily thing. And then he's like, well, I wonder what it'd be like if you came into that every day for 4 weeks. He wasn't challenging me, but I took this challenge. So that became my everyday.
He's like, challenge me, bro. Like, come on. Which I think, like, we do need to be challenged a lot as men, too. I'm sure you probably relate to that with your guys. It's like, we want challenges.
Say I can't do it. Say I can't do it.
Yeah.
So it became part of my every single day. So I guess balanced in a way. I'm not same thing with yoga. I've said the same thing. I want to do yoga. Every time I try it, something hurts or whatever, and I don't stick to it. But my routine every day is like a 3-hour routine every day. I love it. I'm a morning person. My wife is not, so she does not like when I get up at 4:30 on the weekends. I'm just up. But I typically get up at like 4:15, 4:30. I'm here by 5, getting the mat straightened up, ready to go, getting things straightened up around here, up here, doing my own little physical therapy, stretching. I haven't done it in a little while, but breath work is regular, then jiu-jitsu, then stretching after jiu-jitsu, and then up here, so on a cold plunge. Kind of balancing myself out, working really hard and then recovering. But it's been a massive change for me, and it kind of completely redirected my life with what I was doing. I was just miserable with doing a regular corporate office job, just sitting behind a desk all day. So I had to, it broke me out of my funk for real.
Well, and I think, honestly, I know for me for a while with the competing, there's so many dudes, especially in masters, right? Especially 40 and up. I would say at least 50% of the dudes that are still competing are only competing because it's the only way they can stay regular, right? Because when you have something to train for,
gives you
it's so much easier to get up and go train and do the things and watch your diet because you're cutting, and
especially if you pay money for it ahead of time, you're registered.
You're registered. Like, it gives you something to. I think a lot of men, I know I was this way. You gotta have something to train for. You gotta have something to, like, a lot of us have discipline, but we only have discipline when people are watching. It's kind of like the difference between, like, honesty and integrity, right? Honesty is telling the truth. Integrity is being honest when nobody's looking.
Yeah, like, what are you doing when no one's watching?
Yeah, when
are
nobody's
you getting
watching.
In that 40-degree water, or are you just telling people you did? Or?
Exactly. But when I think a lot of guys, if they've got something to train for, they feel like people are watching. And because people are watching, they have some accountability, right? And with this accountability, like, I can't let these people, like, I told them I was going to do this.
But that's a different energy coming at it from.
It's a totally different energy. And I think that's one of the things that, I told you earlier, the main reason that I'm not competing right now, and I'm not saying I won't compete again, but I realized
it's that energy.
I don't love competing. I love winning.
Yeah.
Right? There's a big difference.
That was an interesting topic you brought up, and I've had that struggle too, competing for many years. I've probably had hundreds of jiu-jitsu matches at this point, but I remember a couple of years ago, there was like an Instagram channel. It's called Wrestling Mindset, and I was sitting at breakfast, and I read this on there, and it kind of started changing my opinion about competing, and this guy was basically talking about competing from gratitude. He's like, I'm very grateful to be able to do this. Like, there's going to be a day when I can't compete, right? And for me, it's already happening with my knee right now, but I'll be back from it. But, we're all going to get to that point in life where we just can't do it anymore. Right. And it's like, I am grateful for those battles because there is something fun about it. It's, it's almost like being back on the battlefield back in the day, swinging an axe. There probably is some sort of our DNA that's back into that, and I do enjoy that, but it's so stressful, like you said, because, like, I think it's mainly stressful because I care about what other people think about me. You know, I don't want to disappoint other people.
Right.
I've built up this thing where it's like I've trained so much and I feel like I'm tough. But when I compete my best when I let go of that, and when I'm grateful and I'm just like having fun and kind of light out there. You know, you see like Usain Bolt when he ran the 100-meter dash and he looked back and he was laughing, you know. And it's like he tapped into a different energy at that point, you know. Anderson Silva back in the day when he hit the front kick on Forrest Griffin, you know. There's certain times we can tap into that and it's very hard to hold on to, but I don't know. I feel like my favorite competitions were the ones where I was in that space, but then there's been a lot where I wasn't in that space, and it was a miserable experience. I couldn't wait to go eat after the tournament. You know,
well, that's the same with me when I was boxing, kickboxing. You know, I was so good in the gym because I wasn't trying to.
You were just having fun.
I was just having fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, people were like, God, you're like impossible to hit. And, you know, like, and I'm sparring like super high level guys, like and then I get in the fight and just
because you want to perform,
and get knocked out, right, or just not perform very well because I wasn't, you know, the energy totally changed. You know, my why changed. And
I've felt that, man. That's a real thing.
I think it makes a big difference.
It's a real thing. I take guys to tournaments all the time, first tournament, and they'll tell me, they're like, man, that was so different than in the gym. Yeah. And I'm like, the only thing that changed is how you perceived it, you know, and it's honestly true, and that's such a hard thing to realize, you know, and I'm still on that journey, you know, but I feel like further down it than what I used to be, you know.
Yeah, once you realize, you know, it's the realization, right? It's not going to change overnight. That's with anything. But once we acknowledge and say, and that's the great thing about like breath work is like I said, you've got this internal dialogue and you may have that whole conversation that you just had in your head. And because you're in this space where you're quiet and you're listening, you're just talking to yourself. But it's different than having these thoughts, you know, driving down the road, fighting traffic, you know, yelling at the kids in the back seat, and the, you know, the music's blaring and your phone's ringing. Like that's a totally different. You're not really having a conversation. That's just words in your head that are, you know, on a loop that you're not really listening to, but they're bothering you. It's like your friend, you know, tapping your shoulder.
Hey, buddy.
But getting into that space where you have that, and you can even hear, I've even done it myself, where audibly you're hearing, this is happening in the breath work or plant medicine or whatever the experience is, and you come out and you're like, like all of this, I already know these answers, right? I mean, it's the same with diet and exercise, right? There's billions of dollars being made on the internet teaching people about diet and exercise. Most people
shit that we know intuitively.
Yeah, you already know that if you eat that Big Mac, probably not the best choice. Right? But it's the decision that we make, and at that moment in time, and the justifications, and the we let ourselves off the hook, and we feel pity for ourselves, and or just the craving is so great, like it wins. Like I'm very disciplined to not eat sugar if there's no sugar around, right? But the discipline that I've created for myself is to not buy the cookies when I'm in the store, because if the cookies make it into my house, I'm gonna house the cookies.
It's wrap.
It's a wrap, right? So you know, the thing with the competition is, like I said, getting to that space where you don't have attachment to it, right? To me, it was like already all these stories that I was creating. What if I get subbed in the first match? And you know,
those thoughts are so hard to avoid. How
are people gonna perceive me? And you know, because especially with fighting's the one thing where you're only as good as your last match. Doesn't matter what you've done over the years, how many people you've knocked out, how many trophies you've won, medals you've won. Oh, you got choked out unconscious the last time, or you got knocked out in that last fight and
lost it.
It's like you lost it. So, you know, these stories that are created, and that stories are creating this anxiety. So it's like, when I'm watching a TV show, like some shows, like I just had to stop watching Breaking Bad because I was so into what's happening to the characters that are not real, by the way, right? I'm so like enthralled in this story.
Such a good show.
It's such a good show, right?
It's a good show.
But again, it's creating these emotions and these feelings and these chemical responses in your body that aren't real.
Yeah. Have you do you follow the Penn State wrestling team at all?
No.
They've won the last 10 out of 12 national championships in wrestling, which some people argue is the hardest sport.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely one of the hardest sports.
Yeah.
And they talk about this a lot. Cale Sanderson was their coach. He never lost a match in college wrestling. The only guy to ever do that. And he talks about it. They're very faith-based. And it's like, let go. You've done all your work you can.
Yep.
And then let God take care of it. And it seems like it gives those guys a very good platform to compete from. Like, they all compete like light, like they're having fun, but like, make no mistake about it, they're putting in a lot of work.
Right.
But then when they go compete, they're competing out of that space.
Yeah, a lot of that's trust.
Yeah.
Trust that you put in the work. You trained as hard as you possibly could. You did everything.
You let go of the result.
You let go of the result. Like, I've done everything. I can't control the outcome. All I can do is,
show up
and
and
that's
do my
that
thing.
that's that mental edge. I mean, my boxing coach, he's like, we were talking about Mike Tyson. He's like, you know why Mike Tyson runs at 4 o'clock in the morning? Because he knows the other guy isn't. Right?
Yeah.
That's
Even if you have to tell yourself
even
that.
if it's a lie, the other guy may be getting up at 3:30. We don't know.
Might be,
but in the story that you create, we all create our own stories.
You got to do something to make you feel like you've made that sacrifice.
You've made the sacrifice, right? We're all on the hero's journey. So you're in your little fight montage, and you're up at 4, and you're getting in your road work, and you're hitting the bag, and you're jumping rope and hitting mitts and doing your you've done. And the opposite of that is when we have cheated. Yeah. When we have fluffed off our workout. When
that's when that anxiety starts getting to you.
Man, cramp. Maybe you had a little cramp, but you could have pushed through those last 2 minutes of that Shark Tank, but you bailed yourself out. Those add up. If you don't, and we teach this a lot to our guys, like that goes back to the integrity, right? Having integrity with yourself is the most important thing that a man can have or obtain, because if you don't have integrity with yourself and you don't trust in yourself, that's it. Right? If you tell, if I tell my wife, hey, I'm getting up at 5 in the morning, I'm going on a beach run. Alarm clock goes off, I don't get up. She's probably not going to say anything, but that's a little check, right? That's a little check. Like, oh, he said he was going to do something, he didn't do it. Maybe it's subconsciously. Maybe she doesn't even consciously think about it. But for me, I made an agreement with myself that I broke. So
disappoint yourself.
You disappoint yourself. So now you're in the fight. You're about to go, and you're like, man, I'm going to beat this guy up, and I know I can beat this guy. And then there's that little doubt. Do you know?
You skipped 4 trainings this
week. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because you've been lying to us for 6 weeks, saying you were going to do this and you were going to do that and you were going to get this many reps or whatever it was, and so subconsciously you don't trust yourself. People in my mind that achieve the greatest accolades in fighting and sports or whatever are people that have 100% unshakable faith in their own abilities. And you cannot have that unshakable faith in your own abilities if you don't trust yourself. And you can only trust yourself if you never, or very close to never, lie to yourself. So if you make an agreement, and that's where writing it down, because now not only have I thought it in my mind, speaking it is a huge way of manifesting it.
Makes me think of Conor McGregor back in the day.
And then writing
watch
it down
his videos every
is
day.
another way of manifesting it. Yeah, but that trust with yourself and that integrity with yourself is everything.
Kind of along the lines, I was going to mention it before, so I used, I forgot all about this actually, because I did it for probably 2 months. I got this habit tracker app. So I put jiu-jitsu on it, cold plunge, sauna, breath work, stretching, resistance training workout, whatever it was. And every day when I got done, I would go, oh yeah, check it off. And if I didn't check it off, I was like, crap, it starts a streak over again. So I wasn't journaling, I wasn't getting in depth. I was literally just put a check on there. But seeing my streak every day, I was like, okay, I did that for 37 days in a row. Did it with drinking a couple times if I didn't want to drink for a while, and it was fantastic until I got into a good routine where I was like, I just didn't need it anymore. But I used that heavily. It was
that's really what the morning practice is for. And if you want to take it a step further, what sucks is you get used to checking. So now I'm on this 90-day streak of getting up and stretching. But now my getting up and stretching, I'm really kind of, some mornings I'm just kind of going through the motions. So I'm stretching, but I'm not getting that extra little inch, or I'm not holding for that extra 2 to 3 seconds, or, because I've kind of gotten this comfort of going through the motions of stretching.
Getting a routine,
I still get to check my box. Like I did it, but again, in the back of my head, I'm like,
am I getting 1% better into my
100%.
thing? That's been my mantra with jiu-jitsu for a while, is like 1% better every day, because it's like, it's just going to be that little grip that changes this way, and that's what's actually going to make all the difference in your game.
For sure.
Yeah, I know you're talking about, because I'll have a shitty workout. Be like, my calisthenic workout, this morning I did it. This morning, I still got a back problem. I get an MRI checked out today, whatever. But so my thing was, all right, like 5 rounds of push-ups, 10 push-ups separated with, crunches. So this morning after I did 2 rounds, I was like, I guess I'm done my workout. Went down and started stretching for class. I lied to myself. I didn't do my full 4 rounds or whatever I wanted to do. I still did a workout, kind of checked it off, but
well, the other thing that it does that I'm noticing, because one of my biggest things that I'm really trying to work on is being more patient. Again, the authenticity piece. I have always been, I want to say quick-tempered, a little bit quick-tempered, but more like just I'll say something without really, or have a reaction without really thinking it through about what I'm going to say or how I'm going to respond. Is this the best response at the time? So one way of practicing now is I'm very careful with the agreements that I make with myself. Like, damn, am I going to do 5 rounds push-ups? I don't know, for my back foot, right? Like, so not setting the bar low, but just thinking, all right, you said you were going to do this. I actually did it. And I verbalized it to my friend yesterday. I did a 24-hour fast, and I love to eat. But, I did, was like, I'm going to do a 24-hour fast. I've been cheating quite a bit on my diet and gain a little bit of weight. I'm going to be going to the States, and the airplane food is, make a bad choice. I love those little cookies. So it's like, I'm going to do just black coffee and water. And it was all day yesterday, and it was like not the easiest. But I had told my friend that I was doing the fast, and that was the first thing he said to me today. He's like, how'd your fast go?
You're like,
yeah. Like, he's checking, so
again,
making sure you're accountable.
Again, if you're struggling with anything really, but if you're struggling with that integrity with yourself, a good way in the beginning is to verbalize to somebody else what you're doing and have them hold you accountable. Accountability partner is amazing, and that's one of the things that we create in this retreat, because after the retreat we have a bi-weekly call for 2 or 3 months where we're getting on the phone with these guys on Zoom and checking in just like we are on the retreat. So you kind of fall right back into the retreat, because it's just a big experience if you go on a retreat for 7 days. Costa Rica, awesome. It was great. All this stuff happened. And then you got to come back to the matrix, right? And life smacks you in the face as soon as you get back. A lot of you haven't really created those habits yet, right? You haven't really, but having the accountability of getting then on a Zoom call every couple of weeks with the same guys that you went through this experience with, then you're right back in it, and you kind of remember how you felt, and you remember the progress that you made and the agreements that you made with yourself, because you made them in front of these other dudes, right? And we're not calling each other out. We're not, you know, picking on each other. But like, hey, man, how's your morning routine been going?
That's why I feel like jiu-jitsu has really exploded recently on the U.S. because it's like you have those accountability buddies that you go see every day on the mats and stuff like that. It's like being on a sports team again, like in high school, you know? Like you see everybody every day and you're like, I got to show up, push this guy.
Yep.
You know?
I used to create those for myself. I used to create a group of accountability partners because I was trying to get in shape or trying to eat right or trying to do whatever. And I knew there was a few people like one of my sisters or a work friend or whatever. And I would create a little, like 5 or 6 people. Like, all right, we're all we're all trying to do the same thing. But I was doing it selfishly for myself, but I knew it also helped them as well. And then I do it now with a few people where someone's not really sure what to do, or they just want someone to check in and go, hey man, did you do your push-ups today? We're doing this burpee challenge. Did you do your burpees today? Like, fuck, no, I didn't. I guess I'll go do them now at 11:58 at night. Get them in. Yeah. It was a huge help for me. I think I'm in such a good routine now where I don't necessarily need that, but I do like doing that. I love the idea of that. It's massive.
And I think a lot of men don't realize the impact that it has. Just that trust, that again, integrity with yourself, how it flows out to the rest of your life. Because again, like I said, with your wife, with your partner,
you're going to impact however many people you see on a daily.
Most women want security, right? They love you, they whatever, but they want security, whether it's financial security, feel protected by you. That goes back thousands and thousands of years. I mean, they're looking for that sense of security, and children are the same. They want that security. If they constantly see you break these little agreements, and they can be so minuscule, but if they constantly see you break these little agreements with yourself, then in some ways, even subconsciously, they start to lose faith and trust in you. So then, there's a crazy storm and it's going, nuts outside. Your kids are scared, or, they think there's a monster in their closet, and you're like, oh, there's no monster in your closet. Trust me, you're safe. We got that little bit of peace in them. It's like, yeah, but right? Because like my dad was not a perfect man by any stretch, and we disagreed on a lot of things, but he was absolutely a man of his word. So I trusted everything he said, whether I liked it or not. If he said it, it was coming true. Like, he would not say anything that didn't come to fruition. And a lot of times I didn't like if he said you were getting a spanking when he got home, it didn't matter what happened the rest of the day. What if you were in trouble, you were in trouble. It was happening. You think he forgot? No. Which is the worst punishment ever. Like, I want you to go to school, think about what you did, and I want to beat your ass when you get home.
As soon as you get home, that's the first
thing. Think about it all day long.
You think about it all day long. Right?
But if you've got all those little bitty things where you're not fulfilling what you're doing, he's going, I don't know, man, he didn't do his burpees last week. He might not beat my ass today.
Like I said, it might not even be.
Might forget about it.
Might not even be a conscious thought, right? I'm not saying like we're being judged all the time by everyone around us, but again, it's just another layer of, if I have integrity with myself and I do what I say I'm going to do, nobody's perfect, 98% of the time, it instills trust in your kids, and instills trust with your friends, and instills trust with your coworkers, instills trust with your spouse. Like, whether they agree with everything or every decision you make or lifestyle or whatever, but they know that you're a man of your word, and if you say you're going to do something, you do it. And the more that you know that about yourself, the more you trust yourself, the more you're going to be able to accomplish in business, the more you're going to be able to accomplish on the mat, in my opinion.
Agreed. Tell me a little bit about how you started in martial arts.
The story.
97? Did I read that right?
Yeah, I have loved martial arts since I was a little kid. Like, I'm 50, and I grew up in, the Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee, Steven Seagal, Van Damme, all that era of watching movies and just being enamored with martial arts. Believe it or not, I was the smallest kid in school my whole life.
Really?
I was teeny. My parents, I played no sports. my parents wouldn't let me do martial arts. When I was 18, I mean, even at high school, I was 5'9", 160 pounds when I graduated high school. And within 6 months, I was, 6'1", 190 pounds.
Dang.
I was lifting weight. I started lifting weights when I was 16. I fell in love with, had all the Arnold Schwarzenegger posters.
Yeah.
And Mr. Olympia and all that. So I'd really fell in love with working out. And when I was 19, I went and joined a Taekwondo studio. And, I used to go out in my backyard and practice all these kicks and all. So as I walked in, I was already doing a lot of things that, other people weren't doing. And so I got my black belt in Taekwondo in like year and a half, 2 years. And was on the competition circuit where it was all point fighting. And I loved it. I went to like the world championships and all this stuff, and I was really into it. And I remember I tweaked my knee doing like hook kick, round kick. I had this one kick I would do all the time. And I lived in just outside of Asheville, North Carolina. That's where I'm from. And the Asheville Tough Man came to town. And I was like, man, I want to fight in that. So I started boxing. And the big difference in ATA Taekwondo, we couldn't hit each other in the face. So I start boxing, and I'm like, holy shit, this is different. So when I first started, like I would have really long arms, and I was fast from doing the Taekwondo, so I was good at punching and dodging, but as soon as there would be some pressure, I would like turn my head and kind of shy away. And then I just kept working on it. I started getting hit, and I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. Right? And then I get, so I ended up starting doing Tough Man contests. And the very first Tough Man I fought in was Asheville. Tough Man was like, it was a big deal. It was like 10,000 people. It's at the Civic Center. It was a huge, this was like...
That was a big thing back in the day.
Early 90s. So it was huge. This was really before UFC. Like the first UFCs were coming out, right? Yeah. Hoist Gracie was like coming on the scene. Like I didn't know what jiu-jitsu was. And so I'm down to the last. Again, I had long arms. I hit hard. And I threw straight punches. So I was beating a lot of guys just on that. And I ended up fighting this guy. Was huge. He looked like Mr. Olympia, because it was like 190 and up. That was the weight classes. You were 190 and below and 190 and up. And I weighed like 192 pounds. And, dude, we had so the guy comes out and like stiffs me, and I had never been knocked down. I had this grand illusion that I couldn't be knocked out, and because I got hit a lot, and I would just take their hit and keep hitting them, and I'd win. So he knocks me down, and I get up, and I'm kind of dazed, and we're punching some more, and he knocks me down again, and I'm done, right? I'm quitting. And the ref goes, "Do you want to continue?" And I shook my head no. And I don't know if he thought I meant I'm not quitting by shaking my head no, or he just didn't. It was a fight, and everybody was like going crazy, and he didn't care, and he pushed me back in.
God.
And when he pushed me back in,
sounds like Herb Dean.
Yeah, I end up catching the dude and knocking him down.
Damn.
And then we got fight of the night. I ended up breaking the guy's collarbone, and he couldn't continue, and the last two guys fought for the championship because I ended up losing the fight, but that fight in that moment made my fighting career because the adulation and the fans, and had I quit, which really I quit.
That's
right?
crazy.
I did not want to fight.
Yeah.
I was done. But because he pushed me back in and I kept going, that was it. So I started fighting in Tough Man contests. I ended up winning 7 Tough Man events.
Damn.
Nice.
Went to the World Championship and got destroyed by a guy named Del Crow, who ended up having a really nice professional career. And then I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee to box with Ace Miller. I wanted to go to the Olympics. What I didn't know is because I'd been paid money in Tough Man, I couldn't do the Olympics, which is, Tough Man and Olympic and amateur boxing are nowhere near the same. But that was the rules, so my first fight was pay-per-view, Harris Casino, and I fought a guy that was like 0-2, but he was, again, huge. They wanted me to fight heavyweight because it's like, oh, you could be a white heavyweight champion, whatever. And this guy hits me. He like threw a right hand. I lean back, and he comes up with a straight arm left hook and catches me on the chin. And I remember waking up and the ref standing over me, and he goes, 9. And I'm like, oh, they must count backwards in the pros. They do not count backwards in the pros. I lost 9 seconds of my life.
That's wild.
And so, and again, I came back, I was heartbroken, but I'd really, my whole fighting career had been, you hit me, I'll hit you. And, you can't knock me out, and I'll knock you out, and I'll win. And I did a lot until I didn't. You get into the pros, it's smaller gloves. These guys know more how to punch, more technical. So I spent a year of just, my coach wouldn't even let me punch at anyone. I would do 25 rounds of, picking and blocking and defense and moving. And he was a really good defensive coach. And I went on like a 6 or 7 fight spree, but I was only fighting like, once a year, maybe twice a year, and trying to work, and I had my kids, and, it's just very difficult to be, especially in combat sports, be a pro athlete and, unless it's paying all the bills, it's very difficult. Even I'm sure even in jiu-jitsu, like
jiu-jitsu, the model is like teach, run a gym. Now you're starting to get guys that are just now starting to make a career competitively, but it was either switch to MMA or go teach classes. I went the teaching classes route, and I'm still trying to compete. I'm 31, so I'm gonna get healthy and keep competing, but just getting hit and knocked down and stuff like that, that's crazy to me,
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then I had the opportunity to try out for the World Combat League, and got picked up by the New York class. That was the coolest fighting experience I had. It only lasted a couple of seasons, but it was like, the money was but it was a show. Like you're on Versus, got the smoke and the crowds, and it was the closest thing to UFC, I guess, at the time. For me, I always felt like I was just out before, whatever it was took off. I fought Spencer Fisher in a Tough Man contest in like 1994.
He was a bad dude.
And when I fought him, he was heavyweight. He was like over 200 pounds.
No way.
Yeah, I won the Tough Man contest, and he was supposed to fight somebody in like an kind of an MMA type fight. Yeah. And the guy had backed out, and we were friends. It was like, you two guys, it was $150 each. We're like, yeah. Wow. And that was my first, I was exposed to jiu-jitsu for the first time, because I was way, he's short, kind of chubby back then. He ended up fighting at 155 in UFC, which is nuts.
It's crazy.
Being a killer. He loved fighting more than anybody I've ever known. Like, we would be on Patton Avenue, and he would like pull over, set up a little camera, and like pick fights with people. God. He was a wild man. But we ended up having the fight, and I'm like, we've got on the Everlast gloves that you like slip on, right? I mean, there's no padding. I mean, it's just bad. And I'm hitting him, and we're going, and like he comes in on me, and I get him, and I don't even know it's a guillotine at that point. I just get him in a reverse headlock, and I'm like I'm leaning on the ropes. I've got him picked up off the ground. I'm like, I'm gonna break this dude's neck. and he just has his head turned. He has his feet like in my hips.
Yeah, that's a defense.
Yeah, he's got his feet in my hips, and I'm like, and then finally I let him go.
And takes a lot of gas out.
Yeah,
to do
it takes
that
a lot
too.
of gas, and then we're going again, and the weird rules were, we had these gloves on, but if it ended up on the ground, they would stop you, take the gloves off, and then you would start again. So like it's only 1 minute rounds, and it's the last round. I got him in.
That's some weird rules.
Yeah, I got him in this like side headlock on the ground. I'm just holding him because I was big strong dude then, and I'm holding him, and they make me let go and take my gloves off. So when I get the choke back on, it's not on.
Yeah.
He pops out, gets my back, and like straight arm chokes me like I couldn't swallow for drinking out of the straw for a week.
Busted your trachea.
But I couldn't believe, that was my first like dang, this jiu-jitsu stuff is legit. And I was so resistant to it for years. I hated jiu-jitsu because I didn't wrestle. I had the claustrophobia thing. I just didn't. In my mind, I thought, I'm gonna knock these guys out when they're trying to come in and take me down. And no, that was. I mean, I learned. I learned the hard way because after my stint in the World Combat League, I had a TV show called The Human Weapon in 2007, 2008.
It's a sick
I'd
show.
had this idea for years about these martial artists, going and studying all of it, because I always found it interesting that all these countries had different martial arts depending on the region and what was going on at the time. And it was always, again, I love martial arts my whole life. And, I was out there. I mean, again, it wasn't life-changing money, but I got to, I went to Zuffa, was training at Big John McCarthy's gym. I went to, Boss Rutan was there. All these top-level guys, Randy Couture, went to Randy Couture's, did his pro class, sparred with Vanderlei Silva, which was...
But that was fun.
No, because we were doing ground and pound. We did not do stand-up. That's a whole nother story, but I just I got to do some really cool things on the show, but I remember training and with these guys, and I was a pro boxer and kickboxer. So we'd be doing like a class, and I'd be jabbing him, hitting him with a jab, and hit the dude with a couple of jabs, and he's like, "You box?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Cool." Next thing you know, like, dude scoops me up, puts me on my back, on top of me, like I can do anything. He's an Ohio State wrestler.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And he did it over and over, and I knew that's what he was going to do. Couldn't stop it. I was like, damn.
Wrestling's so
hard. And again,
hard.
I was still like super resistant. And then, I did, I had an MMA fight that I lost. And then my last fight was actually here in Knoxville. Can't remember the name of the venue, but it was downtown. And I ended up being the headliner. And I was 41. And fought this kid that in a Glory Rules kickboxing match, who was a good MMA fighter, but he wasn't a kickboxer. And I got in there, and I literally don't remember. It was like I got roofied. Yeah, I'm not saying that I got roofied, but I hadn't fought in like 7 years, and just the ring rust and the
7 years is a long time.
It was such a weird, like I felt drugged. It was such a weird experience. He ended up knocking me down like 3 times, knocked me out, TKO. And I promised my kids, I was done, but I still had this like competitive, again, I like winning.
I'm
not saying I love competing. I was addicted to winning, and I don't know if it was the ego and the adulation and the, just people, because it was a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of anxiety and a lot of pressure. And as soon as I would take the fight, I'd be like, fuck. Do this, right? I was doing crack. I'd eat whatever I wanted. I had no pressure, because then it's like, everybody that sees you for the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever,
asking you
is asking you about it. How's it going? Are you ready? Can't wait. I'm gonna watch you.
Gonna knock this guy out.
Yeah, like it's all this like, you know, you've got that side, and then you have the side that could be your family, or you know, I had clients that just didn't understand why I did it. Why are you doing this? It's stupid. Why you let people hit in your face? Aren't you worried about like brain damage and all, you know? So you have this whole thing that a story that you've created in your own world. And I started going to jiu-jitsu. But then it was, again, I found competition, and I didn't train that much. I just love competing. And as a white belt, I had a lot of experience with Krav Maga and MMA and all this, even though I didn't have jiu-jitsu, so I did pretty well, right? I was winning competitions. Samuel gave me my blue belt in Atlanta. I won IBJJF in Atlanta.
I remember that,
you know, and I was a 10-year blue belt, so I ended up winning worlds, winning pans, you know, got my purple belt. And then it started to shift, right? Then you start, you know, the athleticism, you know, and the strength and, you know, these couple of moves I've got started to wane, right? It's not, you know, now guys are doing De La Hiva and all this stuff that, you know, like, what do you mean you're pulling guard? That's weird. We're supposed to stand here and hug each other for 5 minutes and, you know. Neither one of us wants to go down, right? It's master 4, super heavyweight. Like, that was the gig. So I realized, I was exposed that I'm not that good at jiu-jitsu. I'm just good at a couple of things. I'm good at staying on top. You know, I've good cardio. I'm an athlete for a 50-year-old guy. And it's only been in the last couple of years where I love jiu-jitsu, right?
It's like a puzzle.
Yeah, and part of that has come from, you know, moving to Costa Rica, you know, again, balancing myself out a little bit more and realizing, like, I still love kickbox. I still teach a boxing class for the community once a week, but I don't love hitting people like I used to, right? And I've taught Krav Maga for years, and, you know, and I still definitely believe in Krav Maga for self-defense. For years, I was like, Krav Maga is the best self-defense for men and women across the board. And I still believe it is for women if it's a complete Krav Maga that teaches Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
I like that.
Right? Because 90% of fights do end up on the ground, but 100% of them start standing.
That's true.
So teaching women how to drive their fingers into a guy's eyes, shin kick them in the groin, and try to run,
number one,
in my mind, is better than teaching the 120-pound female to try to pull guard on me or punch me in the face. Or, you know, as a professional fighter, I've hit thousands of dudes hard in the face.
They didn't go down.
And not gotten a reaction. Right? I've never inadvertently poked someone in the eyes or kicked them in the groin where they didn't freak the fuck.
Sure.
Right? So again, there's this whole argument of, but I do think now jiu-jitsu is better for men because it creates more of the fight feeling on a regular basis. Because we can't really practice Krav Maga. We can do MMA sparring, and it's kind of close, but we can't poke each other. It's still not.
Can't
still
go 100%.
Not the same. Jiu-jitsu at least gives guys that fight feeling, that bad situation. They get in shape. They get confident. They learn some moves. And the best part now that I love about jiu-jitsu is I can choke someone and put them to sleep and not hurt them.
It's a non-violent way to...
It's a because... Absolutely, I can drive my fingers to your eyes and kick you in the groin. But I'm going to hurt you. Probably pretty badly. And maybe the situation didn't warrant that much retaliation, but you can't. You're either in or you're
control
out.
the escalation of the fight.
You can't really play with it. With jiu-jitsu, I have the ability and the opportunity to like control you without hurting you, put you to sleep without hurting you, you know, put you in a position where other people can hold you down, you know, where, because you may be a mental patient or having an episode or just having a really bad day because your mom, you just found out your mom, you know, it could be anything. So the love of jiu-jitsu has come later in life, partly because I don't want to hurt people anymore. Not that I ever really wanted to hurt people, but I had much less of a problem with it when I was 25 than 50.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Jiu-jitsu is great for controlling little kids too. I mean, an 8-year-old, he's from what my mom tells me, he's crazy, like as I am. So I was a kid, so he'll like run all over my wife and just kind of do whatever. He's doing kazushi on her now. He like grabs her leg or ankle in the kitchen and he's like pushing her leg out, creating kazushi and stuff. And but when he messes with me, I'm like just one arm, I grab him the right way, and I'm just controlling his body, lifting him up at the same time, and I'm like, jiu-jitsu. It's pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome. Any topics that we didn't talk about? You want to? This is my idea, just kind of just talking and shooting shit about stuff, and I want to lean heavy on breathwork stuff.
You know, and we talked about the men's retreats. I mean, I think the big thing for the men's retreats is, again, a lot of these dudes are scared to step out of their comfort zone. You know, again, they hear breath work, they hear yoga, they hear journaling. Definitely they hear eye gazing. I mean, when the first
that's the one that piqued my ear.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
I'm into it.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you know, probably get in trouble for saying this, but when I said it in circle after we're done. And and I've had like a gay guy on every retreat, and most of these dudes are just dudes that don't feel comfortable around, you know, masculine straight men. They haven't been in that setting, so there's that fear, or of not acceptance or whatever. So, you know, and the funny thing is, most of them end up being the killers when it comes to like boxing and stuff. Not in a very technical way, but just, I don't know if it's the anger or the heart, or they've been picked on their whole lives or what. But, you know, I've got this guy, Sam, who's an amazing guy, and we do that. And he's like, I'm gonna be honest. When you guys first said eye gazing, all I thought was gay, and but then we did it, and it was super profound. And I'm literally standing there looking at this dude, and we're both crying, and I'm like, what is going on right now? Right? So, but again, especially guys, combat sports, jiu-jitsu, fighting, tough guys, big trucks, whatever, right? We don't want to think about feeling that vulnerable. Right? I don't want some dude to see me cry. I don't want to cry. I definitely don't want some dude to see me cry while I'm staring into his eyes, right? That's A, we don't do it on every retreat, and B, it's a teeny tiny thing. But again, it's the power of, you're not saying anything, I'm not saying anything. We're looking at each other, seeing each other, reflecting on the feel. Because I may be looking at, I'm like, damn, this dude's got some pretty ass green eyes. Shit, right? Or I might be like, man, you got a weird looking head. What else going on?
Too much stuff going on in my eye. This thing.
So, you know, but it's that, can we look at someone? Because I mean, at this stage in my life, I personally believe that we are all slivers of one gigantic conscious, right? We're all the same. We're all God, and we're all the devil, right? We're all just in experiences, different little aspects of each other's lives. And I'm not saying there aren't people who are like saints that never do anything and they're like serial killers, but most people, you know, we're insecure and we have anxiety around different things. We have doubts, we have family shit, we have relationship shit. Like, we're all going through it. We're going through it at different, and it's just creating these opportunities to see each other and to hear each other.
Being more empathetic, basically.
Be more empathetic and understanding, and because and there's things in the world that I don't understand at all that infuriate me. Like, how in the world could you vote for this person? Or inject yourself with that or eat that or whatever it is, right? It's judgments. But if, we're also
see
each
yourself
other.
from
You
there.
see yourself. We're just mirrors for each other, right? Why does this make me feel this certain way? Why do I respond to this stimulus in this certain way? What is really going on? And we create these opportunities to have these internal dialogue conversations with ourselves and then have the conversations with each other, because he may say something. It's just like coaching. You ever have a student where, I've been trying to teach this dude how to jab or throw a left hook for, he's a great student because I've been teaching him left hook for, at $75 an hour for 4 years, and he still don't have it, right? But then he comes in one day because you're sick, and he says one thing a little bit different, and it clicks, and the guy gets it. It's not he's a better teacher. He just said something that was more relatable in that moment to somebody else, right? And that's all of us. I may have gone through something that you're going through, and I can be like, bro, have you ever thought X, Y, Z? Yeah. And you're like, or vice versa. So again, but we don't really talk to each other. Men don't. We talk about dumb shit. We send each other memes and we roll, we do jiu-jitsu and we're talking about the UFC this week. But especially men, we don't communicate very well. We hold everything in. Everything's fine. I got it. Right? Yep. But, again, the retreat is just a way to get out of your environment, get somewhere around people who are the same, and do hard things together, and then have opportunities to talk about those hard things. That's all it is. We do, men's circles where we do check-ins. I do it with my group on Thursdays, and it's literally give me 3 words that are your words for the week, the day, the month, whatever, that are represent where you are right now in your life. Guys will say their 3 words, whatever it is, and everybody as a group will say, I see you. They'll say, I'm in, and we say, I see you, I hear you. There's not even discussion about it. Usually. Sometimes there is, but usually it's like, I'm not trying to give you advice. I'm like, what's going on with you right now? You say your 3 words, and then someone's literally looking at you, say, I see you, and I hear you. And not just saying, I see you, I hear you. Next one. Right? It's like, because sometimes verbalizing those 3 words, you're like, what am I feeling right now? It like puts you on the spot. Yeah. Right? What are your 3 words? What kind of 3 words you got right now?
I don't. I'm on the spot. I don't even know. Diet, jiu-jitsu, and sleep. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean things
again,
I'm focusing on.
I see you, I hear you. Right? So, and again, you can be happy and sad at the same time. You can be happy about one thing and a little worried about something else. If you own a gym, that happens a lot. I'm excited to teach tonight. I'm not excited to pay rent this month. Yeah.
So what's the retreat called? I know it's your handle's Balanced Man, but
it's the Balanced Man. It's the Balanced Man retreat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where I was looking at a site, it was something different. You named it. I think it was the name. I want to say it was Costa or something.
Costa's Kismet is the retreat center my wife and I own.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what it was.
So we do most of the retreats are at Costa's Kismet. Because we're filling up with other retreats, I'm going to have to look for different venues. I do want to do some in Knoxville, maybe that are 3 or 4 days. It's hard for people to peel away for a week. Yeah. And maybe have the opportunity to do some things that I can't do in Costa Rica, like firearms. I want, again, back to my original plan was like teaching guys, things like, how to read a compass, how to start a fire, how to, because I think there's a lot of men out there that are including myself, that are lacking in some of these skills that if we had those, we might never use them, but just knowing them that you're, that they're in there. It's just the whole, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. So again, this Sunday, 5 to 7, here at Memento, doing breath work, holotropic breath work, yoga, And then upstairs here at Recalibrate, we're doing sauna and cold plunge.
Yeah, man.
I think we're going to mix in some jiu-jitsu. Or if nobody wants to do jiu-jitsu, we can just pull them down there and do it anyway. Just kidding. We won't do that. Still come, please.
Yeah.
Any last plugs or anything you want to mention on the way out of this thing?
Man, this was really cool.
Yeah.
I've known you for a long time, but hearing more of your story and kind of how you've evolved is really dope. So
Thanks,
that was just cool.
You guys have built something really cool here. This is.
Thank you,
I've been to a lot of facilities, and this one's top notch. I love how you're kind of combining the jiu-jitsu with the holistic approach to health.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of similar thoughts on things. So
yeah, this place is still growing too. We're still doing and adding some cool stuff.
Yeah, you gotta come and do a retreat in Costa Rica.
Yeah,
I'll train with the Rotolos too. I gotta make that happen, man.
That'd be cool.
Gotta get healthy and train with them boys.
Yeah, you guys bring your group, and that's 90% of our business is we rent the space out to the facilitator. I have a chef that cooks the meals. Get 3 meals a day, delicious, healthy food.
Nice.
You guys teach whatever you want to teach, and it's your retreat. So
sick.
Something that's, the only thing people like training, better than training with you is training with you in Costa Rica.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Set it up. I'm in. All right. Well, thanks again, man. We really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, and this doesn't have to be the only one we do. We can do more, especially I'm going to do something with Heather, kind of lean more into the yoga aspect of things.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's who brought you. I'm glad she came in and talked to us that one day and mentioned it. But it's been fun, man. We look forward to the next one.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks again.
Sorry.